Imagine living peacefully in your home, only to have everything turn upside down because of one entitled neighbor. In today's story, we meet an HOA Karen who takes things way too far. She spots my caregiver helping me with basic tasks and, for no good reason, decides to accuse her of being illegal. But Karen doesn't stop at just words. She threatens to call immigration and even brags that her son is an ICE agent who can make people disappear. Yeah, you heard that right. It sounds unreal, but sadly, it's all too real for us. At first, we tried to brush it off, thinking maybe it was just a bad day for her. But things escalated quickly when Karen actually followed through with her threats. One afternoon, the police showed up at our doorstep, and my caregiver was at the center of it all. Karen's son, using his position, had arranged for her to be arrested. Over what? Absolutely nothing. No crimes, no wrongdoing, just pure entitlement and abuse of power. But that's not even the worst part. As the story unfolds, you'll see just how far Karen and her son were willing to go to tear apart innocent lives, and how they underestimated the strength and truth on our side. Stick around, because the moment when everything flips is something you won't want to miss. Karen had always been a problem in our neighborhood. She acted like she owned the entire HOA, even though she was just another resident like the rest of us. From the moment my caregiver, Maria, started working for me, Karen would give her nasty looks and make passive-aggressive comments about keeping the neighborhood safe. At first, we thought it was just her usual nosy behavior, but it quickly became clear that Karen had something personal against Maria. Maria is one of the kindest, hardest-working people I've ever met. She's been helping me for months, running errands, cleaning, making meals, basically giving me the ability to live with some dignity. But somehow, Karen twisted it all in her head. She started spreading rumors at HOA meetings, saying we were harboring illegals and making the neighborhood unsafe. It was disgusting and completely baseless. What made things even scarier was that Karen wasn't just all talk. Her son, who works for ICE, suddenly started showing up at random times, driving by slowly, watching our house. It felt like we were being hunted, like we were guilty of something when all we ever did was mind our own business. The fear was real. Every knock at the door made our hearts race. We knew Karen wasn't done yet, and what she did next would cross a serious line. It wasn't long before Karen's obsession turned even uglier. One afternoon, Maria went to the community mailbox to pick up some letters for me, and Karen cornered her. Witnesses later told me they heard Karen yelling, accusing Maria of stealing mail and threatening to have her locked up for good. Maria, being the sweet soul she is, stayed calm and tried to walk away, but Karen wasn't having it. She pulled out her phone and started recording, trying to bait Maria into reacting. It was clear she was building her own little pile of evidence to take things further. Meanwhile, inside the HOA, Karen was stirring up more trouble. She convinced a few of her friends, the ones who always backed her up no matter what, to file complaints against me. They claimed I was running a business out of my house by having a caregiver, calling it a nuisance to the community. It was ridiculous and hurtful. Every meeting felt like a trial, with Karen acting like judge, jury, and executioner. Maria and I tried to stay strong, but the pressure was getting unbearable. We felt watched all the time. Strange cars parked near my house late at night, lights flashing through the windows. Every day, it seemed like Karen was getting bolder, like she was pushing for something big. We just didn't know yet how far she'd go, or how dangerous it would get. The breaking point came one rainy afternoon. Maria had just returned from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when two police cruisers rolled up in front of my house. Karen was standing at the edge of her driveway, arms crossed, a smug look on her face like she had been waiting for this moment. Before we could even process what was happening, officers approached Maria and asked for her ID. She was confused, scared, and kept looking at me for help. I rushed outside, heart pounding, trying to stay calm and ask what this was about. That's when Karen loudly announced to the officers, loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, that Maria was an illegal immigrant and had been committing crimes in the community. She pointed to some fake paperwork she had printed out, claiming it was proof. And the worst part, her son, the ICE agent, had somehow managed to get Maria flagged for suspicious activity. The officers hesitated. You could tell they weren't completely buying it. But with Karen pushing so hard and the paperwork looking official enough, they decided they had no choice but to detain Maria for further questioning. Watching them handcuff her, while Karen stood there smiling, was one of the most helpless, gut-wrenching moments of my life. Little did Karen know, though, this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of her biggest mistake yet. As the police car pulled away with Maria inside, I stood frozen, feeling powerless and furious all at once. Karen had won, or so she thought. I knew I had to act fast if there was any chance of helping Maria. I immediately called an attorney, one who specialized in wrongful arrests and immigration issues. Thankfully, Maria had all her documents in order, and more importantly, she had been working legally the entire time. But what we didn't know yet was how deep Karen and her ICE agent's son had actually gone to set all this up. While gathering evidence to defend Maria, the attorney discovered something shocking. Karen's son had accessed government databases without proper clearance to pull Maria's information, a major violation of the law. Worse, the evidence Karen had given the police, it was completely fake. She had forged documents, lied in official statements, and even manipulated HOA records to make Maria look suspicious. But before we could take this new information to the authorities, Karen wasn't done causing chaos. 2 days later, I received a letter from the HOA threatening to fine me thousands of dollars unless I fired Maria and removed her from the neighborhood. It was clear now, this wasn't just about Maria. Karen was trying to force me out too. And the next move she made would push everything straight over the edge. With everything coming to a boiling point, my attorney moved quickly. We gathered Maria's real documents, the proof of the fake paperwork, and the evidence that Karen's son had illegally accessed government systems. We handed it all over to the authorities. Within a few days, things started moving fast. First, Maria was released with an apology from the local police. They realized they had been fed a bunch of lies. But the bigger hammer was yet to fall. An internal investigation was opened against Karen's son, and suddenly, Karen wasn't smiling anymore. The HOA also got pulled into the mess. Turns out, Karen had been manipulating complaints and paperwork for years, targeting anyone she didn't like. When the HOA board found out about the forged documents and her harassment campaign, they had no choice but to act. Karen was stripped of her position on the board, fined heavily, and warned that any further harassment would lead to legal charges. But just when we thought it was over, the final twist hit. Karen, desperate and angry, tried to sue me and Maria for defamation. She actually tried to claim she was the victim. The case never even made it to court. It was laughed out before it got that far. In the end, karma caught up with Karen in ways she never saw coming, and peace finally returned to our neighborhood. But trust me, none of us will ever forget how far entitlement and abuse of power almost destroyed innocent lives. After everything settled down, Maria and I were finally able to breathe again. The neighborhood felt different without Karen's constant drama hanging over it. A few neighbors who had once stayed silent actually came over to apologize for not speaking up sooner. It really showed us how fear can make people freeze, even when they know something wrong is happening. But it also showed us how important it is to stand up, even when it's hard. Maria decided to stay on as my caregiver, and honestly, our bond grew even stronger after going through all of this. She's more like family now than anything else. As for Karen, she eventually sold her house and moved out a few months later. Word around the neighborhood was that she couldn't handle the way people looked at her after the truth came out. Her son faced serious consequences too, losing his job over the misuse of his position. Looking back, this whole nightmare taught me a lot about resilience and community. Entitled people like Karen think they can bully and threaten their way through life. But when you stand together and fight back with the truth, they lose their power. Thanks for listening to our story. And remember, no matter how dark things get, doing what's right will always be worth it.